Hey improvisers, did you know your scenes could become hilarious sketch comedy? Join Improv to Sketch, a live online workshop from the Sketch School on August 2nd and 3rd, where you'll learn the secrets behind turning your favorite one-time improvisations into scripted sketches. This online weekend workshop is fast, fun, and limited to just 8 participants. It always sells out, so snag your spot now at thesketchschool.com. That's thesketchschool.com. Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Suzi Barrett, and my guest today is one of the all-time UCB New York legends, Paul Scheer. You know Paul from his TV shows The League and Human Giant and the CSI parody NTSF SD SUV. But in the improv world, he has been a pillar of UCB since it started in New York. This is one of those historical interviews that just contains so much info about shows and things that I didn't know about from those days in New York. And he also breaks down the process of shooting The League, which I didn't realize was mostly improvised. In part 2, he talks in depth about the improvised sitcom that he's currently developing with his wife, June Diane Raphael, and Marta Kaufman, co-creator of Friends. And he has a ton of really helpful advice about marketing and pitching shows and how to draw an audience to a theater. To listen to part 2, go to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe. I promise it's more than worth the value. There is so much content over there. It's like getting free improv classes. I really believe in it. Head over to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe to support us. And if you want more Paul, you can see him improvise with his touring show, Dinosaur Improv. Dates and tickets are available at dinosaurimprov.com. And he's also written a book that you can check out called Joyful Recollections of Trauma. And one last thing, we always post pictures of our guests on our Instagram at YesAlsoPod. And for this episode, Paul gave us so much material that I think there's actually going to be 2 posts. One of just his photos from shows and teams, and one that's all ephemera, like playbills and ticket stubs and old DCM schedules. He sent us the original, very first calendar from UCB in New York. So if you feel like strolling through an improv museum, head over to Yes Also Pod on Instagram. Boy, that was a long intro. Let's go to Paul Scheer. Paul,
Yes.
welcome.
I am so excited to be here. I'm a subscriber. I'm a paid subscriber.
When I saw your name pop up on the subscriber list, I was so stoked.
I mean, of course, I had to go deeper. I mean, this show has been amazing for me because you're doing something that I feel like everybody says, oh, wouldn't it be great if we did this? Like create this oral history of what improv is, but you've done more than that because you also are talking about theory in a way that, you know, close friends, people I've performed with for years, I don't know what they're thinking about this because we don't talk about this.
Right. Yeah, and you rarely have time to sit down for an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours with someone and delve in that way. If you talk about a show, you're like rehashing that show, but you're not talking about like, how do you access characters or
and you also have this like, I know that I have a go-to answer for like what the UCB and improv is for me, like which is fine. It's a very like front-facing answer that doesn't do anything more than like, oh, you know, because it's just a question in a larger bunch of questions. So it's so fun to really hear people go deep and think about things. I think that was the thing that was at first so inspiring about your show. I love performing. I love doing improv, but I don't think about it. And your show made me think about choices and even challenge myself in shows after listening to this because it's so rote. It's like driving, right? Like, you know, you drive every day. It's like, I'm not thinking about driving. I know how to do it and I'm just going and I'm doing this thing. But if you focus on stuff, I just found it to be actually very inspiring.
Great. Well, let's start there.
Yeah.
Like if we peel back that curtain and say okay, so this show made you think about the kind of improviser you are.
Yeah.
What kind of improviser are you? Or what is one of those realizations that you had?
You know, what's been so fascinating to me is hearing how people approach a scene, how they start a scene. I started in 2 different ways. Like I started way back at this place called Chicago City Limits, which was like a short form improv. We would tour around the country and it was very much like Whose Line. And no shade on that at all, but it was a very different style of improv. Like your scenes were being started within a premise that was already there. You know, it was a very contained way to do improv and audience pleasing to no end. But when I came to UCB, I had that experience. So I had experienced doing improv, but then this new way of like improvising long form, like how does that go? And they pushed me right into Matt Besser's class. So Matt Besser from the UCB, like he was teaching a more advanced level of improv than I think a lot of my contemporaries started off with, like Matt Walsh or Amy Poehler, and would go to like Ian and then Matt. That was like kind of the hierarchy. I think it was Amy, Walsh, Ian, Matt for those first 4 levels. And it was really interesting because there were rules and ways of looking at a scene with this long form. Like long form felt like it could be anything, but I think Matt really instilled in me this idea of, you know, finding the premise, you know, naming the game. And I know that this is a constant conversation on the show. And when I look back on it, for as much as I kind of have gone past that, it's like the training wheels of something. Like, you know, the Herald is a structure that I think helps people understand how long form works, and you should break it and then go off into different directions. But I still feel like that core of that premise is always within me. Like it is something that's really hard for me to break, not in the sense that I am beholden to it and just heightening in that one way, but if I enter into a scene, 95% of the time I'm coming in with a very strong first line. That's like, you know, and it doesn't have to be what the scene becomes, but at least I always am a big believer in this idea that you're painting a picture of somebody and you have a stroke and then somebody else has a stroke. And then by the third stroke, you're like, okay, this is, at least we're going in this direction.
Yeah.
So, you know, I realized after listening to many of my friends and many people that I improvise with, they don't approach it like that. And I was like, oh, wow. You know, because one of the big feedback things I got from when I was a teacher was it's so hard. Game is so hard. Premise is so hard. And I understand all of those things. And I don't disagree with them. But I also felt like there has been, and sometimes when I'm doing scenes with other people, a looseness where it's like, oh, you have no idea what's going on. Like we're just jumping in water and we're going to find it. And it doesn't scare me, but sometimes I think it takes a really innate listening to understand, well, where are we going? Like, what are we doing? And maybe it's a protective level for me, but like, I think when I enter into a scene, I at least lay a little bit of foundation. And as I get more and more comfortable with people, I can pull that away and try different things. And I'm never going to be like, I'm just hitting one thing over and over again. But I do feel like entering into a scene, you have to give some sort of gift, even if it's an emotional gift. Like you have to just be like, give me something to ground myself so I can make a choice that can complement that.
Yeah, some foothold. Like, let's at least know what mountain we're at the base of. Or something. Yeah.
Yes. Or like, let me know that we're at a mountain and I'm fine, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like where I get lost or where I get like in my head is when I am doing a scene and I'm like, I have no idea, like where we're going. And there's and there's a fun. Sometimes it's fun to be like, we're really figuring it out. I used to watch Matt Walsh and Ian Roberts perform ASCAT, like when I first started watching long form improv. And it was amazing to watch those UCB4 because they would start with a physical activity. I feel like the idea I always saw was like just painting a wall, and it would just really start to come out of that. And it felt so
very Chicago style.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
or of that time, Chicago style. Yeah.
And that was really fascinating. Then I would watch, you know, Matt Besser come in and his first line would be funny. It was almost like a beginning of a sketch. And then Amy, I think, fluctuated between those. Like she was, I think her characters were always really funny and she would just commit fully to something with energy. And so it was really interesting to watch those 4 because it was always a constant push-pull. And those are my, like, for lack of anything else, and yes, I've trained with a bunch of different people along the way, that was my formative, like, those are my, like, improv parents, if you will. Like, and seeing those four and how they interacted and trying to copy those people and do that. And so,
and since they're your improv parents, we can refer to them as three men and a little lady.
I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah.
That should have been a poster of one of the theaters.
No offense, Amy. Arguably the strongest improviser of all them. You're from now on the little lady.
Little lady. But yeah, like it was. Yeah, that was really fascinating. Like, and so I know. I guess like from hearing on this show, and I don't want to make it all self-referential to this show, but I think the people that are listening to it will know too. It's like, there is this like hesitation of, or I've heard a lot of like, oh, I don't go at it that way. I don't do that. I don't think about it like that. And I also think that there's just different ways that people name things and like how they come in, because you're doing an opening, whether it's an interview, whether you're doing sound and movement or whatever you want to do, that is generating ideas, right? Putting you in a trance state, putting you in a place where you're open up to being inspired. I love that idea of like an opening can be anything that you want as long as it's interesting to the audience, which I think some openings sometimes are not. But that should be, you should be inspired by it. And I feel like when I can't even see or know where people are coming from, that makes me nervous. I'm like, oh, wait, I thought we were all, because I thought like that whole opening is supposed to put us in, like the show begins.
Yeah, this clarifies something that I was going to ask you a follow-up question on, because I was going to ask you if you also do like a strong first line, almost like premise-y start, even in organic scenes. So no opening, you just get a one-word suggestion and you just start a scene. Are you still starting from that place?
Well, that would be like a little bit different. If I just had like a word, I think I would just make a choice on something and then go, right? Like, I think I just try to commit, like, and I can let it go in any which way, but I'm going to make a choice of, and I think this is back to Chicago City Limits. Like, I'm making, who I am or where I am or where I'm at emotionally. If I am coming in with one of three of those things. I feel like that's the only fair thing to do, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
I think that's just standard good improv.
Right.
I'm reading like a self-consciousness or like you're analyzing what you're doing and comparing it as if like, am I on a different planet? And isn't this like how this is how we were taught? I think what you're describing is great improv, and it's just like a style of it.
Right.
I am a strong believer that if you're doing an opening, yes, like we should be pulling something from that opening. And if it's ambiguous to your scene partner, what you pulled, then it's ambiguous to the audience.
Right.
And then it doesn't feel like improv because they're like, the suggestion was cloud. They did this big like cloud thing and they were in heaven, and then it was like an airplane, and then someone just started a scene by painting a wall,
Right, yeah.
So it's like, how does that connect? I'm not referring to like when you said like Matt painting a wall.
Yeah.
But like I even teach students that like you can start with something that leans premise-y, even if you are just getting a word. Because to me, a premise offer is the same as it's one rung of the ladder.
Right.
The same way that a rung that we are in grandma's house is a rung of the ladder, or I'm your server, a relationship, a who, what, or a where, or an emotional offer, or a character, or a premise. All of those are like options, but a nebulous, ambiguous delay of declaration is the zone that feels like a death knell for a scene.
And I think maybe this hesitation that you're getting from me is I came from, or my experience in teaching, and I was like one of the first teachers at UCB. I had been teaching at Chicago City Limits as well. And I understand the real, I don't like game. I don't like herald. And I think that sometimes there is this thing where I saw so much benefit to like, again, making choices. Because if you say we're in grandma's house, you could be movers, you could be related,
Right.
you could be grandma, you could be like, it's only the first shot fired. I think by the time you get to the third or fourth line, you have an understanding of who we are, where we are, and what we're doing. And then the game can kind of present itself. Like, I'm not, and maybe as I'm talking to you too, I don't know if I'm always like laying down a game. Like, it's sometimes it's just like, it's just a premise of I am this type of person, and we'll see what the game is. So I think it's like a little bit of a mix of, I feel after teaching so many people that really hated this style of, improv. I watched New York City go through this phase where, because I think it was very much like, we are doing this. I think that the UCB, when they first started, I don't want to speak for them, but I can say as a student in watching it, they needed to put in enough guardrails to make these shows work, because they were launching a theater. I was doing 5 shows a week, and they were all varying forms of improv shows. They were all different, but, and
it's a ballsy move to pick up your tent stakes and head to a city that doesn't have the scene that the city you left had.
Yeah.
And to just blindly scrape in the talent pool that exists there, coming from short form, coming from colleges, coming from off the street.
Coming from people who, I would say 60% of the people I improvised with at UCB when I first started had full-on professional day jobs. It wasn't like I am making money to become an actor. And so many of those people did not go on to do more. They were like, no, this is fun. I like doing
and
this.
One of them is Will Hines.
Yeah. Right.
Most kept their day jobs, but one left. Yeah.
And that's it. Like, you're always watching that thing where it's like, oh, people really... It was really fun because you weren't surrounded by actors. I love that about New York in general. But yeah, you're right. They came to the city. They started off, doing this show. Then they started doing classes. And then when they opened that theater, they're like, oh shit, we have 5 nights a week that we have to do programming for. We're going to do, Sunday is going to be ASCAT. I think Saturday was like their sketch show. And then it was like a real mishmash. You have like great people that came up, like Tina Fey and Rachel Dratch did their sketch show, or you have like Todd Barry and John Groff doing like this show called Sidecar, which is like great. Like, Miriam, and like all these people just doing great shows from Chicago.
Yeah.
They were solid. But then you had us doing the 10 o'clock shows, the 11 o'clock shows, the midnight shows. And
what were those shows? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
You were about to say, and I think... Yeah.
No, I was like, those shows were wild. They were anything. The staple show that I was in that launched UCB was a show called The Real Real World, which was an improvised version of MTV's The Real World, which was based on a show that Besser did in Chicago with Amy back in the day.
I just interviewed Miles Stroth, and he talks about that show where they would like take people around the city to like environments. That was different. Okay.
This was like, I came out on stage and I was essentially, and this maybe speaks to who I am as an improviser too. We had a cast of amazing actors as characters. So it was like people like Andy Secundo was like Mayor Rudolph Giuliani, and Betsy Stover was like Nancy Drew, and Danielle Schneider was like an MTV pop star, and Aaron Bergeron was like a serial killer. And so it was like, what if all these people lived in this house, like The Real World, this old show? And at that time, it was very popular. And I was the director. So I would say, hey, I am this guy, Lance. I directed this show. It never aired. The season went off the rails. We're going to show you some of this, this footage from the show. And then I would be like, okay, we cut to the living room, and, Aaron is in there with Andy, and they're saying
fun.
this. Yeah. And then they would play out scenes. I'd cut away from this, go to a confessional. So I was directing.
That's super fun. What was the input from the audience, or wasn't
really
there?
Interesting. I don't remember exactly. I know I had a big opening, and I think I got a couple of things from them.
I feel like that would almost play as like a pared down version of that would be a great short form game.
100%.
And get the characters from the audience. So like you get like a literary figure and a historical person and a whatever, I
love that. What was so interesting about this show was it was one of the longest running, most successful shows when the theater first opened. It was Saturday at 10, but the characters never changed. So we're doing it. it was like walking this line between doing a sketch show and an improv show because you knew these characters, they had their costumes, and every single week it would be like, all right, we're doing this. And then my job was to get it to explode. Like it had to fail at the end of every at the end of that, whatever that was.
Would it build on the previous weeks? Like, no. So things didn't become canon.
But yet things that actors did started to become things that we knew we would go to. It's like, oh, I know they're going to do that. I can do that.
Like if someone hit on a fun character game, they're going to do it the next week because it killed, and now we know like Nancy Drew drinks out of the toilet.
Exactly.
And the mystery is always that she's got to find a clue in the toilet.
And that was sort of the fun of it. Like there's something thinking about it now because I haven't really thought about it more than just talking about doing that show. It's like, oh, it's a real like for me it was fun because I was like side coaching improv. Like that, that was essentially what I was doing. I hated it at the time because I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to be like acting, and I was side coaching. And I felt like that was a type of show that UCB was doing a lot of. Like there was another show called Cartoon Chaos, which was essentially the same premise, but it was like all those old like 80s and 90s cartoons. So it was like John Daly played the Christmas tree. And there was like people played robots and stuff. It was a very heightened reality. It was like a Scooby-Doo mystery van thing. And then there was also like a side coach in that too. So it was sort of having someone on the side, and that all kind of started from the first show that was launched. And these are a lot of Besser shows. Like Besser shows were these shows that I think made improv accessible and put bumpers up on them because no shade on Harold, but Harold is a tricky form. It's not going to bring people back. Like, it's not like, whoa, I can't wait. Like, I mean, to a certain extent, sure. But like, so the first show we started off with this show called Immortal Kombat. And Immortal Kombat was the first UCB show that was like a non-Harold show. And we were all dressed in crazy costumes. Again, costumes, characters. And that was
very sketch leaning.
Yes, exactly. And so what we would do there is we'd come out to the Mortal Kombat theme, and this is called Immortal Kombat, and everyone had powers. So there was like in that it was like editor, and there was a person who would only do the edits, and there was like a person who like built characters for you. So it made the backline extremely responsible for the scenes happening on stage. You'd be like, walk on, they would call it, and they would like, so it was like everyone had to be really like you could help your scene partners not fail. Yeah,
man, I'm going to steal that as a teaching exercise. That would be such a good way to just train and isolate those skills.
And I think it was like really, I got to play X Factor in that. So I got to do I got to do a bunch of the powers, but there was a character called Time Tripper that could move a scene forward. So you really kind of created this world in which you can't fail because 6 people behind you are going to make sure that you don't fail.
Yeah.
And so I feel like Besser created a lot of forms that were long form improv, but had like safety nets attached to them, because I think for a good reason, this theater had to work, and like real world worked. It was catchy. You got it. And, at that time that show was popular. So it was like, we're just doing that. And we are, and then there were other improv shows that were a little bit more organic, but even Matt Walsh would do, we did this show called Robot TV, which was TV for robots by robots, where we would be dressed in full like white jumpsuits, like painter's suits. And the job was to not make the audience understand. Like we would be like worshiping Landau, who was somehow our creator. Terry Jin, great improviser, would be playing bass guitar on the side of the stage. Someone else was working a slide projector of just abstract slides. And we were improvising scenes that were like, I must go over. And everyone talked like, this is how I am talking. I am talking like this. Would you like to go to the movies? It was like robots trying to act as humans doing improv scenes. So conceptually weird shit.
That sounds like a 4 a.m. DCM 15-minute explosion that never gets done again. This was a repeated flagship.
This is a Saturday midnight show for months and months.
Wild.
I left my birthday party to go and do Robot TV.
Oh my God.
And it was like, and it was one of those weird shows. I think it's like a Walsh thing too, where like you'd go back and like, did that work? Was that good? And there was something about like that Walsh energy, which was, who cares? It was something. It felt like we were making art. It had and the audience is like an afterthought. And I feel like it was a show where people could get high and watch like something kind of crazy. So those are like those beginning shows. And then we branched off into doing like our own shows. And I think the one thing I learned really early on from the UCB was like, it did need to have a gimmick. It did need to have a premise, because we were teaching people about improv. I felt the same way about coming out here to LA when they first opened the theater. We started doing a show here. It's like, we need to show them that it's improvised, and we need to give them a hook. It can't just be us on stage doing improv. Like, we haven't earned that right to just do that. And so when we first came out to LA, we took a show that we've been doing roughly in New York for years and years, the Saturday 10 o'clock slot, and we made it, this is how long ago it was, we made it MySpace. And we'd take somebody from the audience, look at their MySpace profile, and then improvise off of that, just to show the audience, like, hey, you're a person in the audience, we're pulling you up on stage, we're taking this, and that's what the show is. And it helped give us a hook in those shows, and that MySpace became Facebook, or MySpace became something else, and that became Facebook. But it was all just to hook the audience in. So I think I learned that idea of a hook, and maybe that even goes back to where I was thinking always as like an improviser, like, what's that hook? What's that thing? How do you pull it in?
Yeah, and how do you build a bridge to audience members who are probably newcomers to this art form? How do you make it digestible and palatable and understandable so they're kind of like on board? You know, if they know that it's improvised real world and they're familiar with that and they recognize these characters, that's like a doorway that they can easily access.
It's like you're not asking people to watch something where there's no props, there's no costumes, and I think that there's a good, like, I ask this all the time. When we go on tour, when I do shows even at Largo, I'm like, who here has like never been to a dinosaur show? And I would say like over 25% of the audience has never come. So I'm trying to remember, like,
and one person's always like, I saw the demo at the La Brea Tar Pits about how dinosaur bones are found. Does that count?
I'm like, yes, it technically does count.
Yes, that is a dinosaur show. Oh my God, you keep coming here and saying that.
But like, we give them a discount. They show that La Brea Tar Pits card. We have to give them a discount.
You have to honor it.
So I'm always remembering, like, our job is like, we're also performing for an audience. Like, we have to let them in. We have to bring them in, because it's one of those things. What I loved about short form, why I fell in love with improv was, oh my God, they're making it up. Like, I'd never seen it before. There was the first time that everyone goes to see improv. And I think you want to like make sure that, 1/4 of your show is accessible, or at least providing an on-ramp to them.
I mean, the currency of a show is laughter. The audience is paying you in laughs, and in order for the show to work and succeed, you need there to be laughs. Yeah. It's very uncomfortable for actors or audience members to be sitting in a room at a comedy show where there's no laughs happening ever.
Right.
So in order for this train to move, we need that coal.
Yeah.
And in order for them to laugh, they have to know what they're looking at so that they can laugh at it. And if it's just a herald in a community that's never seen improv before, it's like, we kind of don't know what you're doing.
Right. It doesn't hurt to say, like, and I'm a big believer in this, like, and now we're going to take all of that and improvise scenes based on that. Like, just like it's a line, it's like whatever, it may not be elegant, but I also believe it's like for those people, that 25% that just is like, oh, it's a Saturday night, it's Saturday night, I'm here to see a comedy show. Mm-hmm. Let them understand, like, now that's what you're seeing. You may not love it, you may not like it, but at least you understand conceptually what's happening.
Yeah. And I don't mean to take dumps on the Herald, because I also think when Heralds are done really well, they can bring an audience on board.
I Yeah, I don't know if I've seen it.
It's a lower success rate. What's
well,
wild
because
is
it's so structured, right? It's antithetical to what we're trying to do because it's like we have to come back to something.
right.
Like why?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I recently dug up my first Herald schedule from IO this is like the year 2002 maybe. And what's wild, what I had completely forgotten about is you look at the schedule and the entire schedule was Herald shows. Like they were doing Armando, but that was upstairs at a different theater. Their main stage downstairs was like 3 to 6 different Herald teams a night, every night of the week. So you'd come to like the 8:00 show and see 3 teams, and come to the 9:30 show and see 3 more teams, and come to the 11. It's like. And then reading the back where it lists all the Herald teams, there's like 40 Herald teams.
That's
just nuts.
It really is. And I remember as we got better, this group I was in called Respecto, which is it had everybody from like Rob Riggle and Jack McBrayer and Danielle Schneider and Donna Furman and a whole bunch of great people. Owen Burke, Chad Carter, or Hubel.
Would you forget? Did you leave anyone out?
I know. Now I'm like, now I've said too many names. I've definitely left somebody out. But Jackie Clark. What was so fun about that was we were still doing the Herald when we got our show, or we would occasionally pop into the Herald, like to kind of like, I think part of it was, show these younger people who are starting the Herald, like we could set a tone. But one night, one afternoon, I get this phone call. I always remember it, and it will really date me for it. But Owen Burke and I were watching Charlie's Angels in a movie theater, the first Charlie's Angels, and got a text. Mike Myers is going to come tonight and play.
Wow.
And we're going to have him sit in with you guys on your Herald night. And we're like, oh shit.
Oh shit. Do they mean the comedian or the serial killer from the Halloween
Either
movies?
way. And by the way, he's a good improviser. Yeah. Quiet. And you always have to be like, what am I? All right. And you don't know if he likes it or he doesn't emote much, but when he makes a move, it's powerful.
Classic Mike.
And so, we get there, and this is like what I love about my UCB time. And I know it's very different. Like and this is why I think maybe some of these hesitations are, because I can sing the praises about my time at UCB because I lived a very rare air time of UCB. I don't think anyone, besides the people in my grouping, had that experience at UCB. And I even in that air, I was in a even different air than some of my peers. So I had a great time at UCB. Yeah. But I think what UCB taught me was, first of all, it was a giant community. So we were really all together, really always working together. But we were cocky as hell because we had taken this theater that was nothing, doing 5 shows a night, and built it up, on the shoulders of the actual UCB. Like they were the reason for the season. But we were doing good shows. And at that point, our group was paying this guy, Ali Farinakian, classic Chicago guy, to teach us. And now Ali has great guy, very peculiar guy. I remember like when he was teaching UCB classes, instead of teaching improv, he took everybody out on the street to paint fire hydrants.
Yeah, like pick up trash.
Yes.
I've heard some of these stories. Yeah, like you need to learn to be a member of an ensemble, and there's no greater ensemble than being a part of a city. So go scrub that sidewalk.
Wild like stuff. And so we hired him because we had experience there. We're like, well, let's train with somebody else. So when we paid Ali a lot of money to coach us, it was a lot. It was one of those things where you're like, I never thought about coaching money, and then that coaching money was like, "Whoa, fuck! Like it's expensive."
Yeah.
I think we each gave them like
$18,000 a week.
I was like, oh my God. I think it was like it felt the equivalent of we were each giving like $60 to $80, and we were a group of 8.
Yeah,
right. It was expensive.
Yeah,
and that was a big chunk of money. And we would do Krav Maga. That would be our improv training, was doing Krav Maga.
The fighting technique.
The Israeli fighting technique. Like
interesting.
And so he was like, that's helping you improvise. And as this dumb young guy who wants to be good at improv, I'm like, you bet it is. Krav Maga, right? So we're all doing these things. And so we opened our form with this Krav Maga like opening where we would, get a suggestion and say thank you and bow to the audience, and then all simultaneously say the word and then posture like in a fighting stance.
Uh-huh. What sort of info was that generating for you?
I mean, so much it was there. And so like that was like our opening. And so Mike Myers gets there and he walks backstage. Now, instead of us going, hey, Mike Myers here, we're going to make it easy. Let's do fun. Let's have fun. We're like, hey, so we do a Krav Maga opening. You got to do it like this.
God,
and like, we are like just here and you're going to do it. And to his credit, that guy was like, okay, how does it work? And we're like this. And we played, and this is like, I go on both sides of this. I think I would do it exactly the same way in a way, because we played as if he was not there. We were like, and I think that actually freed him up to then come in and just everything he did was like out of the park. Great.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, we were psyched that he was there. It was awesome to play with him. But our egos of like, we're the fucking best. You're going to sit in and you're going to do our Krav Maga opening, which he did. I'll always remember he did it 1 second behind us. So we all were unified and did it. And then he did it and got a huge laugh. And I was like, oh, then he's on. Right. Yeah. And he nailed the show. But we really were cocky about like what we were doing and like how good this improv was, when it probably was fine. Moments probably great, but then fine.
Yeah. How was it to improvise with him? Like what were his scenes like? Was he throwing big characters out there?
Yeah, he did some big characters. The things I remember that Mike Myers did, I mean, and he's also the quintessential person that you reference, or at least I reference at this time, because I'm in a time when there's not many improv textbooks. There's Impro by like Keith Johnstone and Truth and Comedy. Yeah. And Truth and Comedy felt so revolutionary, like, whoa, this is it. And he's referencing that book of like, when Mike Myers would ask for, he wouldn't say pass the ketchup, he'd say pass the Heinz. And that's the kind of specificity, which is, I also think of a busted example. Like, I've never said pass the Heinz in my life.
Right. That's not how humans talk.
Yeah. But it's like, so that idea, like, but he played, like, he waited for his moments. I remember he played Jesus on the cross, and I just remember him like being like arms outstretched, head down, and doing a bit about like, I feel like not social media because it wasn't there, but it was sort of like ads or something on the cross as like a dying Jesus. And then he would just come in as a waiter. Like, he really played supporting background characters to all of our scenes, which I think, look, word got out that he was going to be there. That theater was packed, standing room only, no cameras, no anything. But, and I feel like there's probably a lot of pressure then to get on that stage. Whereas like somebody like Robin Williams would jump up on that stage and jump up for an improv jam and you didn't give a shit. Like, but there was an energy where, I think he was like, oh, I want to not suck, and he didn't suck. It was like, but it's like I remember him just playing a waiter, playing Jesus, like just coming in, doing quick hits that were all hilarious.
That's great.
And then like walk back and say, okay, that was fun. That was really fun. You guys were really great. And walked off.
Sweetheart.
Yeah. Sweet.
Also probably played the back line more than initiating, because he didn't know what the fuck to pull from a bunch of Krav Maga.
Right. Well, that's it. Like, we had,
like, what do I?
Well, and that was also like, we're talking about the opening, creating something. Is like, we would take a one word thing and then not do anything.
Right.
It would be like, it would be like applesauce. Great. We're going to improvise off of that. So it was like, and do a whole form off of that. So then all of a sudden it became, and this is how I kind of treated, it's like bad monologists in ASCAT, because ASCAT back in the day, it's hard. I've worked with so many different ASCAT monologists where you're like, hey, you're gonna get up there and tell a story. And no matter how many times you tell people, hey, just talk, just
give us details, ruminate. It doesn't have to be a fully formed story.
Doesn't have to be funny.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be something you've told before.
100. Yeah. And I've had these moments where people are like, yes, get it, got it. I'm like, and I try so hard to give examples of like how I would do it. Like, I'm like, okay, so hamburger makes me think of, grilling and grilling. My dad used to have like a party every 4th of July, and like I'm just trying to show them like just let it go. Like it doesn't have to be like hamburger. I once ate a hamburger. I like hamburgers. Hamburgers are good. I do like hamburgers more than hot dogs, which is sort of like what a lot of that monologues become. And so you would have these great, huge celebrities coming and doing monologues, and they would just be like, hamburger, hot dogs, hamburger, hot dogs. Is that enough? Okay. And then they go back and you're like, oh, fuck, I have nothing. Right. And then so you have to start to use like scene work to like generate ideas or like, because it's like, where am I getting inspired? I'm like, I have nothing besides hamburger and I have 30 minutes. So I feel like that like form or that structure that we were doing started to help me like watch funny, weird things in scenes before me and use that as like an inspiration to kind of get going.
Yeah. I call that the leapfrog method. It's like you're kind of jumping from this to that and using, you're like fluffing the material you have to like build something bigger.
Like when you say leapfrogging, it makes me think of this one thing that Besser did for us, and this is, I said that like UCB splintered. I think UCB splintered because I think it felt like there was a lot more rules than there were, right? Like, I think the rules are like, and this is...
First of all, clarification. Yeah. What do you mean UCB splintered?
I think that there was like UCB was this like really popular thing in New York. And then like Armando Diaz opened up his own theater like down the block. And that was like a splintering of the UCB.
Gotcha.
And it took a bunch of people from UCB that were dissatisfied with UCB. Oh, I got cut from my Herald team. I don't get enough stage time there. I don't like the way that they're improvising. And then there was like, and then Ali was another one of those guys who he opened up another improv theater, or he opened up one, then Armando merged with him.
One did the Pit, one did the Magnet.
Right,
or like they did something together and then it split into the Pit and the Magnet.
Yes, and this is where I apologize. Like my dates, times, and how that sometimes all what broke down.
It happened last Tuesday.
Oh my God! Wow,
I got your back, buddy.
So but like that splintering was, I think, a lot of, I don't like it. It's too rigid. I don't get to do what I want to do. I'm not getting to use my voice. And then there are people that would come in from Chicago, and then you started to have like teachers that were teaching like UCB start all of a sudden. And this is, I love Joe Bill. Like Joe Bill did this show like where he was like fishing or something like that.
Bass Prov.
Oh,
him and Mark Sutton. They were so good.
One of the best shows, and that was so amazing. So every now and then we get like these Chicago guys coming in, Armando being one of the first. But then you'd feel like, I remember teachers that would stop teaching Game or Herald and be like, I'm just teaching what Joe taught. And then I was like teaching a level 3, and then you get people who come in and like, I don't even know what a game is. I'm like, oh boy, when you're in level 3, now we got to like walk back. So I think there's a splintering of it's too hard. And I think that like the Herald, it's like a training wheels kind of a form where it puts the training wheels on you to go and break out of it. Like I don't ever have the desire. Like somebody asked me to do a Herald night the other night or a couple months ago. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I would like they were really great people, but I'm like, it just feels so structured to me. But when you were saying leapfrogging, and this is why I think some of UCB, why people got upset with UCB, and not all UCB, but like the teaching of UCB, it was like we would do a pattern game opening. And it would be like, all right, so the pattern would be like, it would be applesauce. And then, and Matt would make us have to go, like, we'd have to go like applesauce, snack food, school lunches. And then so when the show, we would go applesauce, school lunches. Like he would make us do the work of the middle one to then jump to the third one. And that's math. Yeah. And I'm not a math person, but like that is a frustrating place to be in your head. And I feel like it was always like, what's the game? What's this? Why aren't you heightening? What are you like? And it's like, and I think that people got so locked around premise, game, structure,
and the style where the way that he teaches is very like wrong.
Right.
Nope, that wasn't it. Do it again. So it's like it gets you in this place in your head where you're like, well, it's binary. There's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And if I don't get it right, Dad's gonna be mad.
Well, and I think that like part of it was, and I'm looking now at having this conversation with you, I'm already seeing like patterns of it. It's like, I think it was like, how do I get you to just see what it's like when you do it right? Like, how do you get, but you have people like Ian who would, when he would teach, get you up on stage with him, and then he would just do a scene, for lack of a better term, around you. Like, no matter what you gave him, he would just blah, 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 and just make it awesome. And you're like, oh my gosh, I just watched an amazing Ian scene. But you're not necessarily learning from that. It's like, oh yeah, I got to perform with a person who made me look really good. Yeah. I don't know if I can take anything away from that besides feeling like that was a really fun scene that we did that I barely had anything to do with.
Let's unpeel that orange for a second. Yeah. If you, in your mind's eye, if you picture one of those scenes where he's like making someone look good in that way, what is he doing? What are the moves he's making? What does that look like?
I always feel like there's a bunch. There are types of improvisers, right? And they're very loose as far as like, I think they can, like, they're baskets. Like, and Ian is a smart, wordy improviser in the sense that he can the logic machine. No matter what you say, there's a logic for it. Like, I work with Chad Carter all the time. Chad is like one of the funniest guys. Neil Casey's one of these guys I put in these like logic guys. There's like, they will make anything make sense, and they will yes and it. And I also say that, for the most part, and this is probably another UCB thing, like the logic guys are not doing full characters. They're just, I am this, it's sort of like this meta way of looking at improv. It's like, I am playing a game, but I am also commenting on it, but I'm not pulling away from it. I'm just driving it forward. I'm just driving. And so it's like Ian would take any little thing and just like, yes, and I'm going to expand that and just build it up. And I'm trying to think of like an example of it, but like that, like
what you're describing, to me implies like for the type of scene that we were talking about at the beginning of this interview. Where someone's caught in a nebulous gray area of not knowing what the scene is or what they're playing, to have an Ian next to them, they're in 201 struggling or whatever, and he's able to define, well, since you're a this and I'm a this, of course I'm this, and give clarity, give point of view, maybe serve up their take on something for them.
Like spins a game out of seemingly nothing. Yeah. And it's interesting because it's like, I know that if I'm in a scene with Chad and I'm doing a scene like with him, if I'm at all lost, I'm like, oh, he'll save it by smarting it out. Like he's smart. And like, and Neil too, like Neil and I were doing a scene a couple of weeks ago, and it's so fun doing a scene with him. But I'm like, okay, like we were both coming, like a scene was falling apart. And I love that still many years after we started, like scenes and shows can go south, and part of the fun, I feel like Neil and I were on the same page of going like, we gotta get this up. And we were really working together to kind of just restructure the show. I mean, I'll tell you what was happening, which was, it was a monologist that was coming in, was doing monologues, and then decided they were going to jump in and start playing with us. Oh. And, God bless, great, but it was torpedoing scenes. Like, I felt like the whole show felt like we were on a submarine that was just like, we couldn't shovel enough water out. We're just trying to get it back to stasis. And so like that's like I always feel like when you're building a team or you're building you want somebody like that, because it's like, they will be able to, they're the brains. They're gonna run something they'll make something make sense, or they make it sound like it makes sense.
Yeah. There's no better water bailer than someone who can be like, okay, this person said this thing that doesn't seem to make sense, but it does if we consider that there's this element of the scene, and they tie it together with something else.
They take the illogical and they put logic on the illogical, and I think that like Ian. Ian had this thing where like they called him the machine because they felt like he was able to logic. It's almost and I don't want to like use this term loosely, but there's an autistic quality to it where you're like outside and you're like, wait, what do you mean? Like it's like I am not of this world, so I need to ask you questions because I don't understand it, but yet it's actually making the game funnier because it's treating it like you're almost not a person.
Yeah, it's like Hal from 2001 or something. It's like,
a robot.
So what you're saying is, all right, if I am to correctly analyze that, you as a father think that your responsibility is this, whereas I, as your butler, think that,
And you're like, oh.
Yeah, that is what this scene is.
And then you feel great because it's like, oh, anything that I said, that you made me look smarter.
Yeah.
And so I think there is like that ability to kind of, I love that. Like, I love a team that is all like one of all things. And I feel like that's something that like when we were putting together teams, we put together our team of Respecto, and I think we built it unintentionally like this kind of rogues gallery of like, oh, you do this good, you do this good. And
it's
it
like
wasn't
a boy band. It's like there's the party boy, the shy one, the cute one, the funny one, the one who's vaguely into hip hop.
Well, yeah. One that
probably shouldn't be.
One has a goatee that never was in fashion, never looked good, but yet he rocks it.
And is he 30? And the rest of them are
he does
17?
look very old.
Yeah.
But that's like that. Like, and I feel like that's always what I like to play with because you probably have seen it too. Like sometimes there are shows where it's like it's a lot of the same type of people.
Yeah.
And it's like any team. It is a team sport. That's what I love about improv. I love that I can still go home some nights and feel like I didn't have my best game, or I didn't have my best show, but the show was good.
Mm-hmm.
Or I feel like, oh, I went home and I fucking nailed it. I'm like psyched about it. Like performing for me, I was saying this to my wife, like she's like, oh, you got to hang out with your friends more. I'm like, I do though. Like hanging out with my friends is like doing these shows.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's like we're doing bits, we're having fun. It's there. It's like, I don't know. I get that same satisfaction because it's playing. We're just playing. I mean, it's like, it's not, there's no stakes to it. And it's really fun when you can represent a lot of different people because I think it's about getting surprised by people and enjoying what they're doing and not knowing exactly where they're going.
Right. A brain that thinks differently than yours and has a different reference base and a different emotional like quadrant that it lives in, has a greater chance of surprising you and then unlocking greater discoveries in you and your own reference base. It's like,
it pushes you. Like, I mean, when we did the League was an improvised show, and I don't even know if it was apparent how they cast it, but I think the way that I probably would have cast the League now is like, I'm going to take 4 or 5 great improvisers and put them together. But what they did was they took like, John LaJoie, who was this like musical comedy Canadian guy, very funny, really talented, but not an improviser. Then they took Steve Ranazizi, who was a much straightforward comedian, like stand-up. Then you have like Kroll, who is in both worlds. Like he is stand-up and he is improv. And he's good at both. And then you have like Mark Duplass, who's coming from like film, and Katie from film and doing like these improvised movies, but they're more actors. They're not like there's comedy in their movies, but they're not coming from a comedy scene. And then you have me, who is coming very much from like an improvising, background and comedy background. And you put all of us in a scene together and we're all hitting what we find funny, where we can push, where we see our little, like, it makes the show really good because we're coming at it from not like, oh, we all know this is the game, in that show it's different, but it's like, everyone has different terms for all these things. It's like whatever makes sense to you, but it was interesting.
Was that show completely improvised or improvised off of an outline?
Improvised, so working the same way that Curb did, right? So I would have, I wrote a couple episodes of the League, like I think 2 a year or something like that. And it was the hardest thing to write because you would basically write a 12-page outline that would look similar to a script, like interior house or interior Kevin's house, and then you would set up enough of a world, a premise, a thing where it's like, okay, Andre's going to Kevin's house to ask for advice about blank. Meanwhile, LaJoie is over there because he's hiding from his ex-girlfriend. Like, like, so you're setting up enough stuff, and then you would put like some avenues for like jokes. So that's like, it could have this, it could have that. But then the scene would start, and we would do 45-minute long takes.
Wow.
And then we would just be improvising, and you'd find stuff, and they're like, okay,
45 minutes that they're going to cut down to 5 minutes,
like
or three. Yeah.
And it's like, and so you do 45 minutes, and then Jeff would come in, our director and co-creator, and he would say, okay, I really like that thing that, like, I'll just talk about a moment that I had. Like, so I did this thing where I improvised one time that I'm trying to think of like what's a good one. I was running a marathon, and there was like this thing I was eating called spunk, and and I just like started playing with this thing, and it looked like cum. I mean, it was like, it's a bit dumb joke, but it was like, but it was like, and he was like, oh, let's do that. Let's keep on like hitting that. So we would refine the scene. So you do it like 3 times, and then all of a sudden, this thing that you improvised in the beginning would actually become the center point of the scene, and it would be a much tighter scene. We'd still hit the beats. Like, I'm coming in to announce that I'm running a marathon, but then the scene became about me drinking this thing that looked like cum.
Yeah.
And it was like, and that was not in the outline. It was something that we all found, and then that's the funny scene. But the plot, but we have enough of a structure scenically to be like, that will take us to our next scene. Because like the information that we need to get out, that I'm running a marathon, that's set up, and an outline is set up.
Right.
That, but in between, we could do whatever we wanted.
Yeah, running a marathon is the narrative plot point.
Right.
But, and the bridge to what happens later. But spunk is the game of the scene that you found that has nothing to do, or it's just tangentially connected.
And you said it way better than I did, and I appreciate that.
Much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that also being said, like, there were funny things that were in there that were completely like the game of the scene were also sometimes written, but then we would find funny ways to explore that game of the scene. And which is what has been exciting about this thing that I'm doing with June and Gabris.
Yes. Yeah, I want to talk about that. This is, since it organically came up now, let's hit it. So
we're doing an improvised multicam for Amazon that is created or co-created by Marta Kaufman. And we were like, Marta had called,
who for our foreign listeners, is co-created Friends.
Yes, which is, and she and she is absolutely amazing. And she was like, if I go back to multicam, I want to do it differently. I would love to do improv. And we sat and talked to her because she doesn't really know improv. She knows comedy, obviously, and she's, and knows multicam.
And she knows Jennifer Aniston. She
definitely knows Jennifer
very
Aniston.
Well.
Very well.
Which
that's
you
can't beat that.
Yeah. For part 2 of this episode, go to yesalso.supercast.com. If you like this podcast and you want double the content, head over to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe. You can also help us out for free by subscribing to us on YouTube and talking us up to your improv communities. If you have a question that you'd like us to answer in one of our Q&A episodes, or a topic that you think would make a great bonus episode, put it in a 5-star review. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A very special thanks to our producer, Ryan Rosenberg, audio and video editor, Brian Kessler, and Britt Faye, who does our marketing. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Suzi. That's not how podcasts work. They won't even see us. They will listen to us, so it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.